Good evening. We're
Evening.
good to see everyone. We're just out of a budget session now into the regular session, so we're a little bit road weary, but it's been good stuff. It's been good stuff. You learn a lot through the budgetary process. When you get to look behind the scenes from the fire chief and everybody else. So we appreciate the different officers reporting to us today, letting us know what's going on. They don't just tell us what they need financially, they also tell us what goes on every day. So, Mr. Rickerson, we're learning a lot, so we're learning a lot with Liberty County. Mr. Mosley, has the meeting been properly advertised?
Sure.
All right, thank you, sir. I see that we have Pastor Hayes, Richard Hayes, here with us today. Happy to have him. We got the top of the chain here, so if you come, sir, lead us in our invocation and our pledge, we appreciate it. It'll stand now for our invocation.
I didn't hear the gavel. I wasn't sure. All right. Good to be here on today. Let's go before the Lord in prayer. Most gracious and Heavenly Father, we are so thankful and honored to be here on today. We just appreciate you for your goodness and for your mercy and how you spared so many times Liberty County and our surrounding areas and continue to bless us and increase us. Bless us and lead us on tonight, these great leaders, as they go forth and continue to do the business of this community to make it a better place to live and to stay and to call home. We give you thanks, honor, and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Commissioner Gillett has to step out. He's presenting some awards at Liberty High School. He's going to try to make it back shortly. It's that time of year for our high school students. And we are, let's see, I want to, at this time, make recognition, if we will, Mr. Brown, when we were here the last time, I think, last regular meeting, we made recognition for Davion Mitchell for Baylor Bears when they end up in CAA championships. Since that time now, we have Mr. Richard LeCount, also a Liberty County native who's been drafted, remind me, by the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns. So we're happy for him also. And for others who are from the coastal empire, but certainly happy for those who are from our local area. Let me give I think his name is the young man, Davis, young man from Long County, who references Hinesville. Sometimes he'll say Hinesville, he'll say Little Richard Hinesville. Mm-hmm. So he claims us, we'll claim him too. Yeah. I think the story is he lived over here for a while and then moved to Long County, I guess. So we'll claim him too. So we are a county of winners and champions, so we want to be proud of those young people and their accomplishments.
Amen. And
we pray for their success in front of those careers. You know, things can happen so quickly in sports that will change the dynamic. So we pray for them to be successful in their careers and that they know that we are proud of them. And also we appreciate them for being role models for those who are coming behind them. But I always want to remind them, my mom would say, don't ever forget the bridge that brought you over. So we're happy for our LCRD and the part it played in their success, and of course their parents and those of us who have given our support to them all through the years. And we are more than elated when they see on TV from Hinesville/Riceboro, Georgia. So we're proud of that. All right. And then I do know there's some tentative plans being made for Richard LeCount. They'll be announced later to have a celebration for him in the city of Riceboro, city of Pittsburgh. So we're going to join in with that when that time comes. All right. The agenda at that time will call for the minutes of the April meeting to be approved.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion second, we accept the minutes of April 6th and April 15th. Are there any discussions? There being none, all in favor will raise your right hand. All opposers, the minutes are adopted. Thank you so much. Proclamation, International Firefighters Day. I heard they had a recognition of the city of Hinesville. Is that right? That is correct. All right, then let's do it better over here at the county.
So, good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. International Firefighters Day is a recognition for the firefighters across the world, not just here locally within the U.S. So this takes place in reference to an incident back in the late 90s where Australia had a huge fire going on. Some firefighters were sent from the U.S. out that way. and paid the ultimate sacrifice. They lost their lives. So International Firefighters Day was founded to be May 4th of every year. So on this day, we want to make sure that we not only remember and never forget those that we've lost, but also to show thanks to those who are continuing to serve, as we never know if we're going to be coming home. So this is just the time, but this is a recognition that is seen around the world. It's not just here in the U.S., it's in Germany, all those other countries. I will be before you guys again for Firefighter Month being September, which is a U.S. thing, but this one's particularly for the ones that we've lost. Luckily here in Liberty County, we have had some firefighters that have passed away, not due to line of duty. It hurts regardless if it is line of duty or not. But for our department, we've lost 3 firefighters over the course of the last 5 years. 2 were actually back-to-back. So this is special to them. So regardless if they lost their life in the line of duty, they ultimately gave a service. So.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brown?
This is a proclamation of the Liberty County Board of Commissioners for International Firefighters Day. Whereas International Firefighters Day was established in 1999 to remember those firefighters worldwide lost in the line of duty protecting the safety of us all. And whereas the role of a firefighter in today's society, be it urban, rural, natural environment, volunteer, career, industrial, defense force, aviation, motorsport, or other, is one of dedication, commitment, and sacrifice, no matter what country they reside and work in. And whereas International Firefighters Day recognizes those firefighters who have served their communities for most of their lives and those who have served for just a few short years. And whereas, hailing from all walks of life, there are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents, neighbors, and friends. They protect us without wanting of recognition or reward. In our time of need, they are there with courage, compassion, and loyalty. They are the essence of the true meaning of community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Liberty County Board of Commissioners do hereby encourage all citizens to recognize not only our local firefighters, but those worldwide on May 4th, 2021, and year-round for their courage, selfless service, and sacrifice.
All right, sir.
Chairman, Commission, with this, we have gone ahead and publicized on the county Facebook page and the county fire Facebook page some social media push. You guys know how I am with community involvement. We are asking that people who want to, do any type of drawings, whatnot, there is an email listed on there for them to send it to us. And what we will do is we'll post those drawings that may be from kids, wherever they may come from. We'll post those on our social media as well as on our webpage, on the county webpage.
Thank you, sir. Good effort. Will you please come on the podium? Guys, and pictures of you all together. And I see Mr. Moses preparing to.
Yep, come on.
He said step up a little bit. Step up.
Hold on now, let's let him receive it, Ms. Moses. Where is it?
He said, get it out of your hand. All right.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
congratulations, sir. Thank you for your service. Let me put a plug in, I guess now is as good a time as any. In our budgetary sessions, we also discuss staffing, and Chief Darby and others, Erica from 911, others mentioned that some of the hardships of filling some of these positions. I know EMS is coming up next, and you're going through some of the same changes, difficulties. So we want to encourage, especially those from our local community, those who are pursuing careers, to consider firefighting, to consider being an EMT or being a paramedic. Consider being a 911 operator. I mean, those are great positions that will provide you with some longevity in the workplace. And And it also gives you the opportunity to give back to your community in a very special way. So we want to encourage, especially the local citizens, to consider, I guess, public safety, but certainly being a firefighter, man, I remember a lot of little boys used to dream about being firemen, you know. And certainly we need our paramedics, EMTs to work, and certainly our 911 operators. So all those are very valuable and viable positions. So we're encouraging our citizens to consider those. When you consider everything else, consider those also. And there's nothing better than giving back. And in fact, it becomes kind of a ministry of sorts when you can help save a life, whether it be through the jaws of life or taking someone from a burning car or from a burning home, saving a life, health care with making the EMT calls, making the runs, being able to provide CPR, whatever is needed. Being a 911 operator, getting that call and directing those persons to help those who need assistance. So as a commission, we just want to support, you know, those vocations and ask our citizens to please consider those. And we need you, and the public needs you, and there can be very few jobs that are more fulfilling than doing those kind of things. I want to go ahead and give that little commercial for you guys to encourage you. Now let's talk about EMS, if we will, sir.
So we want to put some folks on the spot there too. Mr. John Deacle is here. John is actually acting as the director over there right now in the interim, and Crystal Hensler's with him, and she's the operations officer for you.
Come to the podium and just kind of give us an overview of what this is all about, if you will.
I came a little prepared. I had something wrote.
There you go.
EMS Week is celebrated the third week in May. It's in conjunction with all the other healthcare professions in that month, and it's just a week that reserves for us to be acknowledged and recognized. And this is for you guys. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, Liberty County, for your recognition to our EMS service. Our men and women of Liberty EMS work countless hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They sacrifice time away from their loved ones to tend to the needs of a stranger or to their family. Our medics miss out on celebrations, birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, graduations, and other monumental moments that others may take for granted. Alongside of us, we work with our brave men and women, the firefighters, the police officers, the Good Samaritans, the helpers. We rely on our communication from nothing more than a radio with our dispatchers relaying the needed information. We thank them all for their support. EMS tend to be needed when someone is at their worst and often most vulnerable times. Sometimes the job calls for witnessing a baby take their first breath or holding an elderly patient's hand while they take their last. Why did you choose this profession like this, you may ask? Simply put, it's rewarding. Knowing that you make a difference in your community and to your patients, no matter how big or small, is rewarding and self-gratifying. I could not be more blessed or content to work alongside my brothers and sisters in EMS serving our community in Liberty County. There's so much positivity around us every day if we just, for a moment, stop to really take this in. And I feel confident you would all agree. I'd like to share with you an influential quote from the late Mr. Rogers, which may be the reason I'm here today. When he was a boy and would see scary things on the news, his mother would say to him, "Look for the helpers. You'll always find people helping." I want to thank all our men and women serving in EMS, especially in our neighborhood, not just today, but every day. To be recognized with an EMS proclamation is truly an honor, and county and commissioners, I thank you for taking this time and acknowledgement. I want to remind everyone to always look for the helpers, because in those helpers you'll find that they are just like you and me, trying to make this world a little bit better of a place. Thank you to the citizens of Liberty County for allowing our EMS to serve you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let the church say,
Amen.
thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal.
All right, I'll try to get through this after that.
Good job.
This is a proclamation, Liberty County Board of Commissioners, EMS Week. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical service system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Liberty County Board of Commissioners declare the week of May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week with the EMS strong theme, "This is EMS, caring for our communities."
All righty. So you and John will come. Commissioners, if you would gather in place once again. Mm-hmm. Mr. Brown, I'm gonna give this back to you. You have the holder for it.
Get on this side and think I can get on the other side. All right?
And I see the father of a firefighter out there holding this. Okay, now, where's John? Okay. Good? Good. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Good seeing you. We need a copy of that speech, Crystal.
You did good.
And Brian, she included her firefighter brothers in there too. Yeah, good job. Thank y'all for what you do. Thank y'all for what you do. Okay. Awards, Carl Vinson Supervisory Program. Yeah, he has a folder for it to go in there.
So we had some folks that attended the supervisory program that a lot of folks went through that you recognize. I believe at your last meeting, as a matter of fact, Carl Vinson Institute of Government. And there were some because of scheduling and their work and things like that they weren't able to be at the last meeting, and they were a little delayed. We're trying to finish up. But one of those is with us tonight, and it's Assistant Chief Jared Huffman of the Fire Department. So, Deputy Chief, to come up.
See.
There you go.
Why don't we get you?
Oh, yeah, he's smiling now. You want me to get up and do it?
You got to come up here too.
Oh.
You special, right?
Yeah.
Do the Kodak moment thing.
Maxie. Can we get in this hole?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, Commissioner Turkey, you move it just a little bit. All right, there you go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There you go.
All right.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you got, just pass by my house.
And Mr. Brown has folders for the proclamations that y'all get in.
Get it back to her, yeah.
Okay, all right. All righty. LCPC is coming. Mr. Gandhi, how are you, sir? You and Mr. Rickerson?
Having a good evening.
Yes, sir, as well,
sir.
thank you.
A little bit warm for my taste. All right. So I just have one item for us tonight, which is a conditional use for a solar energy system. This is basically just a ground-mounted, kind of larger solar panel. And just for your reference, whenever we have a rooftop solar panel come to us, we can sign off on that administratively. The reason this has come to y'all is because it's ground-mounted, regardless of it being pretty small. So this is a conditional use petition submitted by John Mahoney, the owner of the property, to build an 8.58 kilowatt ground-mounted solar array measuring about 400 square feet on a residentially zoned property. That property is zoned R2, like I said, and is 1.11 acres, more or less. Property is further described as parcel 260A 234, and it is on North Street and located in District 4. So here's a sign out in the front here, and then our legal ad. So just to place you, the Isle of Wight area here. This is North 4th Street up this way. Most of these properties are pretty small, but, how you doing, sir? Most of these properties are pretty small, like you see, but this one is actually combined. It's, basically it's a little bit over an acre rather than the half acre like most of these. So this is kind of where you can see the sign. So it's a kind of a larger thing here. There's a lot of open space in this area here. They're planning to put these solar panels pretty much right there in the center of the property, so as to, not really bother any neighbors with it. It's a sizable property, so. And you can see here it's zoned R2, like all of the spots around it. Here's a note from Coastal Solar. They'll be designing and installing an 8.58 kilowatt ground mount solar array system at the request of John Mahoney. He would like a solar system for his home to improve the environment and cut energy costs for his home. And then this here is just their, as required by your solar ordinance deconstruction and decommissioning plan, just stating that they are responsible for decommissioning the solar panel if it is abandoned or anything like that. So this is just an example of kind of what I'm talking about with a ground-mounted solar array. This one in the picture is a bit larger than the one they're going to be using, but this is the type of thing it will be. You can see here it's going to be 11 by 37. It'll have 2 rows like that. So for our report, the solar ordinance currently requires that all ground-mounted solar energy systems go through the conditional use permit process. So this application for the ground-mounted solar energy system conforms to the ordinance's requirements as well as the considerations for conditional use. And I outline those here. Approval of the conditional use shall not adversely affect economic values or the physical appearance of the neighborhood. As I said, this is in the middle of an acre-large property. It's not really that big, 400 square feet. We don't foresee it doing that. Plus, there will be some buffers we're going to talk about. The physical and environmental effects of allowing the conditional use shall be considered. No physical or environmental detriments to note. Buffer zones. So buffers are not required by the ordinance for this type of conditional use. However, we did speak to the applicant, to Coastal Solar, and they are going to be adhering to a 20-foot vegetative buffer as well as fencing. The property is already fenced, but and most of it is vegetated as well, as in, tree cover. But we've added a special condition on here just to be sure everyone's on the same page that they've agreed to, and they say, well, solar panel will continue to function fine. Mm-hmm. So additional space for parking, landscaping, not noted here. So our approval, like I said, is conditional use approval with standard and special conditions, And our special condition, 15 foot, sorry. The applicant shall place a 6-foot fence and a 15-foot vegetative buffer around the solar energy system. So, like I said, this property, if I roll it back a little bit, is already fenced the entire way around, and most of it is vegetated. They are planting a little bit, but there's pretty much trees like all around the sides here. So. We did get a few calls from people asking what was going on, but once I explained what was going on, no one had any objections to it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question. Is that like in a mobile home park?
No, this is
They're all 1 acre lots?
no, these are all half-acre lots. Some of them are mobile home. All the ones on this street are mobile homes, pretty much. There are a few houses here. R2 allows for double-wide mobile homes and for single-family homes, so it's kind of a mix of. It's kind of a mix of them in this area. Up on let's see here. So these R2 lots here allow for both single-family homes and double-wide mobile homes. So there's kind of a mix of them here. These ones along in R1 here, those are all single-family homes. But yeah, all the lots in that area kind of look pretty similar to this.
What was the street it was on?
North 4th Street.
Isle of Wight.
Is that, how big is those solar panels? Did
So
they have
the-
like a length and width on them?
So 11 by,
11 by 37. So I just, rounded to about 400.
Is he here?
No, our applicant is not here. I don't believe he was able to make it. So you can see 11 by 37.
What happens if he moved?
That's what I,
I
yeah.
was going to ask a question.
Oh, sure.
So there are three types of solar systems, small,
medium, and
intermediate,
large.
And have they submitted a decommissioning plan?
This qualifies as our decommissioning plan, like I said here.
That just says they'll remove the debris after they put it up.
Yeah, essentially.
So that's not saying that what they're going to do if it ceases to be used in the removal. They have to submit a decommissioning plan that talks about if it ceases to be used for 12 months, according to the ordinance, produce power, then it needs to be taken down. So they have to produce a plan under the solar ordinance that shows, and it does, I believe, I was looking again, and we can go back through this maybe, but there is a buffer requirement in a residential area.
There is a buffer requirement, but it doesn't actually state what the buffer requirement is. When we went through the ordinance, it listed a buffer zone D, but it doesn't explain anywhere in the ordinance what buffer zone D is.
Gotcha.
So, which is why we just worked out a buffer with the, with the developer.
Yeah, my main concern was there's no decommissioning plan.
I remember we
Right.
talked about that when we were going through the,
They've got to submit a decommissioning plan.
And that
for the
being
ground, for the
awfully
ground
close
mounted
to the
small.
ground in a 1 acre lot.
I think, in fact, when we went through that ordinance, we talked about bonding, we talked about a lot of things for
Yeah.
decommissioning to be placed, and I believe in that decommissioning plan, it calls for some type of financial stipulation to be put in that plan to guarantee that if they abandon the property, that it can be removed. It doesn't fall back on the county to have to remove it or remove a hazard out there, so that'd be my only concern from a staff perspective.
Okay. Yeah, that's noted. I think that, all they say here is that, as for our decommissioning plan, we will remove all debris caused by coastal solar power from the installation of the solar array and return the property to its condition prior to the installation of the solar array system or to some other condition reasonably appropriate to the designated land use after the installation.
Debris
Yeah.
causes me a little concern.
It causes me
You're really
concern
talking
that
about
there's,
removing the array in itself, so I don't know.
I mean, it causes me concern that those solar systems are awfully low to the ground. And it being on that small of a lot, and somebody may accidentally run into it or something, I don't know.
I think
I don't
there-
know if,
I think the
I don't know
bottom-
that we've approved one of these.
You have not, ma'am. This is the first one to be applied for since
Because
the
normally you
solar
see
ordinance
something
was
like this
passed.
on a larger
Larger scale.
acre, you know. And
Yeah,
I was
this
just
is quite
wondering why he
unusual.
decided to go with a solar, although a lot of people promote that it helps save energy, but I don't know if it does in Georgia.
Where's this gonna be at, in the front of the house or in the back?
No, this will be, so this is the road here. This is the front of the house, which you can kind of see in this picture I took a little earlier. You can kind of see what, these two are the same lot. It's a father and son, I believe, are living on this property. But they're the same lot here, and so, let me go back. So it's actually gonna go right here in the dead center, basically, of the lot. So they're doing it such as that it shouldn't be visible to neighbors in any way or, be anything anybody would mess with.
That did Commissioner Stevens' question about if he sells the property, do we have that in our ordinance?
It is, there's a whole, I mean.
There's a
I would
lot
really hate
in
to
the
do this.
solar.
I'd ask that you hold up that and let's get a look at the decommission. There's a whole list of requirements on the site plan that's required with watershed to be considered and species, topographic drawings, certifications, including liability insurance, a stipulation in the agreement that has to be signed that says, "Oh, carry liability insurance for the duration of the project." And then there's a specific decommissioning plan that has to be submitted upon termination of property ownership, potential safety hazards, removal plan that shows how it's got to be removed and recycled. I don't.
So,
Pretty stringent.
some of those things I do have. A few of them, I believe Jeff said we would waive since it was a smaller project.
We just talked about code enforcement.
Make a motion to table it.
Mr. Chairman, this solar array is equivalent in size to the ones you might see on somebody's roof. And we do have a number of those throughout the county and the city of Hinesville. So we felt like that for the requirements for the commercial one wouldn't necessarily be in place here or in order here, because this is a residential property, and if the house sells, then the array would sell with it. And, you know, there is a statement here that says it will be, when it's no longer useful, and when it's outlived its useful life, they will remove it. But we didn't feel like it was necessary to do all the environmental studies and the things that we're requiring for a commercial facility like the one in Riceboro that's owned by Duke Power. I mean, that's a commercial facility, but this is a backyard facility. They just simply didn't want it sitting on the roof. They just wanted it in the yard instead. So it's really a residential for that residence. It's not for commercial use. But I mean, if you want us to strictly, treat this one like a commercial, we can do that, we can do that as part of the permitting process if that's what you want us to do. But we felt like that since this was a residential nature, that it wouldn't be called for in this case.
It's certainly up to the board. It's just the ordinance doesn't make a differentiation between commercial and residential. It talks strictly about the types of systems being building integrated on the roof or ground mounted. And then it talks about small scale ground mounted that's less than 3 acres, which is, according to the ordinance, what this would be. So according to, it's whatever the board wants to do. Again, my only concern is a statement from the people that install it that may not be in business
That's
in
right.
7 years.
That's right.
That they're gonna remove it or remove debris from the installation. I think they're gonna need to furnish us a ground mounted, some kind of insurance that if he sells the property, he's gonna leave it. And the new property owner doesn't want it or something. I mean, maybe he doesn't sell the property, maybe it becomes I don't know. Just a little bit of concern there. Not necessarily thinking through all the fish and wildlife changes and all that stuff, but maybe there ought to be some kind of assurance from the owner himself. Because it really calls for, on a ground mounted, for him to reassure that every 7 years as long as it's in existence. You know?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm saying, and I understand that, Joey, and I was listening to what Jeff said, and I know this is probably as far as the east is from the west, but, you know, the people get a dish for DirecTV, and they'll mount it on the house, and, you know, they sell it, and the dish stays there. Now, I know this is totally different from the solar, but I see what you were saying is that, you know, when they sell the property, that'll be there. And I guess if the person that buys that, if he wants to have that kind of power source, he would. And if he didn't, I guess he would be responsible for dismantling and getting rid of it, wouldn't he?
That's right, but I do agree with Joey's suggestion that the affidavit ought to be from the owner and not from the installer, because that installer is going to get a check and they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
The owner is the one who is ultimately going to be responsible for it.
Yeah, my daughter bought a house with one of those DirecTV things on there, and I couldn't take it down, but I did get a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the only other concern, and I follow the TV stuff, is that because of the hazardous material.
Oh, yeah,
that's
yeah,
on
oh, yeah,
versus
no doubt about
TV
that,
dishes,
yeah,
then
yeah.
I think that's the reason there was a requirement.
Yeah,
Right.
but I was just trying to equate that.
No, I
to-
understand.
Yeah.
So to help out Commissioner Jones, either we can approve it with the recommendation that we get the statement from the homeowner or demolition, or we can just table it and let them come back.
Or do it as an additional condition that we obtain the necessary documents from the homeowner, so we don't hold it up. And then we can just get those others pulled in. And again, I agree with Jeff totally. I mean, fish and wildlife studies and all that, I don't think are necessary in this case. Just the additional assurances that that he's got the liability and he's got a plan for taking it down.
Yes, sir? Are you the petitioner? No.
I'm a petitioner.
Yeah.
The homeowner wasn't aware that he needed to be here. I did speak with him. He is on standby. If you had any questions you wanted to ask him, I could call him on the phone. He's on standby too.
I don't think we have any questions for him specifically. It's just about the paperwork that the ordinance requires. So I'm glad you.
Yeah, he's one of my coworkers, so I wanted to make sure he was aware of what was going on. I wasn't sure if that was his property or not, but He
Yeah.
wasn't.
I don't think there's any questions for him. He'll hear back from LCPC. Yeah, thank you so far for that. Appreciate it. Good looking out. All right, Commissioner Jones, are you?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask Mr. Brown, the conversation on the decommissioning plan, is that not satisfactory as far as moving forward with approving this request?
I think what's being discussed, the LCPC, and then also just having part of those conditions, the required paperwork for assuring decommissioning of the site from the property owner. And I think it would be an affidavit. I think he's going to have to carry some liability insurance anyway on his property for having that solar in his backyard. But I think those would suffice. So my recommendation is not to hold it up. If we could just make that part of the conditions, that he furnish the other necessary paperwork, that you could go ahead and approve it.
And if we did move forward, and the paperwork that we are wanting the owner to submit is not satisfactory,
We would bring it back, but I think the goal here is to make it satisfactory and get him to be able to function out there. So I wouldn't be in favor of, I think we'll do all we can to get it satisfactory, to work with him to make sure
If
he's
it's
got
not
it.
satisfactory, they won't bring it back.
Right. We won't do that. We'll bring it back to you guys if for some reason the minimum can't be met. Right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward and with approval of the conditional use request as submitted by the LCPC for the property owner, Mr. John Mahoney.
With the addition of the paperwork,
The assurance of the decommissioning.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Is that a second?
Second.
Motion is second, we approve LCPC recommendation with the additional recommendation made by Commissioner Jones, approved by staff. You all will just follow through on that, for sure. If there's any reason it doesn't work, then just bring it back to us. Everybody clear? All in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You same. Mr. Brandon Clark is here.
Oh, Mary,
That time of year.
Mary.
It's great to see all of you.
Good to see you.
Happy to be here. Thank you. I guess I'll start by kind of summarizing what the last year has been for us, obviously. With the shutdown, some of the major changes, of course, for the criminal justice system was there were no jury trials, obviously, no grand juries, and other due process rights were suspended as part of the shutdown measures. The main one that really caused me initial concern was typically there's a right to bond after 90 days on an unindicted case, and that was suspended as part of the COVID measures. I think to our credit, we by and large operated as though it was still there. We didn't have trouble getting bonds for people. The process took longer. It wasn't in person. It was virtual. There's a lot more minutia to getting a hearing held, but everything still pretty much went just a little slower, and everyone still got bonds at approximately the same rate, to our credit. So I was very happy to see that a lot of the harm that was feared by people in my profession really didn't materialize with respect to bond and people just sitting in jail while nothing was happening.
Good. Good.
There were still some changes. Some jails prefer that we visit with the clients virtually. I'm not a huge fan of that. The virtual visits, the phone visits, all of that. For some reason, it seems like the telephone, the virtual visits last about 10 or 15 minutes compared to, 30 to 45 minutes when you sit down in the same room and talk to a person. So I do feel like we lose something when we do it that way. It's likely an appropriate measure, depending on the time and place for right now. But I'm looking forward to, in-person visits with clients all the time again, as soon as we can have those. Here in Liberty County, it's been in person almost all the time. Depending on what's going on, sometimes non-contact, but we've had great access to our clients here in Liberty County.
Good. Good.
Fantastic. Let's see. To the extent that we can, I guess the first few months, all we did were like bond hearings. And then as things slowly started to open and we did more and more aspects of the justice system, we've tried to resolve all the cases that could be fairly resolved. But without the jury trial, that's kind of the driving force behind the whole criminal justice system. So when it's not there, you don't really have the engine. The train's just kind of moving on whatever steam it had. But the whole driving force isn't there, and it's very difficult to get cases resolved. So it has slowed down, but effort has been made to do what we could to not have a very large backlog. And more or less success depending on the county and everyone involved, circuit-wide. Let's see. Good news is, here in Liberty County, I think we anticipate jury trials this summer. I'm very excited about it. Obviously, in my profession, when you see a jury trial go away, you're just terrified that it won't come back, quite frankly, because that's really the thing that keeps our justice system moving. It makes it the best one on the planet is the jury trial. A lot of people don't have that, and it's fantastic that here we get 12 regular people come in and make these decisions. So here in the summertime in Liberty County, we anticipate having them. Other circuits that have started back, all kind of pretty favorable. There are measures in place to ensure protection, safety of everyone involved. But thus far, I haven't heard from many other chief public defenders that they thought the integrity of the system was really compromised by any of those measures. Nobody thought their trial was unfair because of some COVID measures. So that's good news. And so here in Liberty County this summer, potentially Long County, I think I'm scheduled for jury selection next week. I'm real happy to see all of this come back. I'm very excited about that. I guess turning to the budget proposal we have. I'm gonna slide this. The numbers are kind of listed out the same, and typically to kind of gauge budget and kind of where we are with everything, we kind of look at the incoming cases. I note in the budget proposal, I don't think that's all that great of a measure right here, right now, because so few cases moved. Typically, you would close about as many cases as you open. And here, because we closed so few, a lot fewer cases than we took in, that metric is less applicable this year, although hopefully will be soon. There is a budget increase requested. The total amount circuit-wide is $143,000. The main things we intend to do with that, it would fund one new full-time entry-level attorney that would be based here in Liberty County. It's funds to contract out a state court in Evans County, so my Superior Court attorney there can focus in on the Tattnall County Superior Court as we open up. And then there's funds to contract out the state court in Long County. And that also allows me to free up a full-time person to focus on jury trials as we get going. The largest caseload increases were in Liberty and Tattnall County. They had the largest caseloads going into the shutdown, so that was to be expected. But we do have a good number of jury trials that I think didn't happen, and so I anticipate this next year or two to be extremely busy, particularly in those two counties. The standing caseload is a good bit higher. I think this last year we took in approximately 400 cases. I think the number is in here, and we only closed about half that many. And so even with the additional jury trials, since we didn't have any for the last year, with the larger standing caseload, as the cases come up and work through the system with the potential of a jury trial, it's still larger calendars, more people on each calendar that we have to be prepared for and work through the system. So the jury trial is not the only place where the additional time is. It's the whole thing. So when you have a calendar, it has 40 clients this next time. Your calendar might have 60 clients that you've got to be ready on all at the same time, and those numbers just get very large, and it can be hard to manage that. So I'm trying to get one new additional lawyer here in Liberty County, and then if we can contract out those others, it brings me more time without having to add an entire full-time attorney to it. I can do it with contract work. That's cost savings there. I did put a chart if y'all wanted to see how the caseload increased year to year. I went back several years. It's the last page of the budget proposal. That just tracks it out. I don't know if yours is in color. You're at the top of the line. And then Tattnall is the orange line. The last dot on the right would be Tattnall, the most recent case numbers, as far as what was open on April 15th of each year. And then I always like to, when I'm here, thank you for the Justice Center and having our office in it. It is fantastic. We still love it there every day. I think the clients, appreciate it as well. Also, there was a cost savings associated with that. It was shifted approximately $40,000 in expenses from Liberty County to the other 5 counties, and that's a cost savings you realize every year. So, everything I had planned. I'm happy to answer any questions. Hopefully that.
So the new attorney that would be shared across the district?
Primary caseload would be here in Liberty County.
Right.
For the new
For
attorney.
the new person?
We all go where we need to go if we have to, but 90% of that's going to be here in Liberty.
New county.
Can I add one thing in there that I think, Kim, help me if I'm wrong, or Brandon, but by implementing that attorney into the overall circuit budget and contracting out the other 2 positions, the total cost, if we just bared that cost alone of that attorney, would cost us more. I think actually our increase will be somewhere around $82,000 compared to the full cost of one attorney. So that whole mix he mentioned going into that budget, putting in and taking out, that increase that we're looking at is about $82,000 from you.
Will be our part.
That would be our part based on caseload. As y'all know, he comes before you every year a little early for approval, because this has to go ahead and be sent to the state of Georgia, and then we have to execute that contract in the June timeframe, which is before the other budget has to be approved, so.
So, help me understand this. You're asking for the new attorney, but are you paying any type of contract labor now for one as needed? Or it don't work that way?
Yes, no, absolutely. No, we have several things contracted out right now for different reasons. For a number of years, I've contracted out the appellate work here in the circuit. That's working really well. We have juvenile court contracted out right now. That's working out very well, although typically I would prefer that to be a full-time staff member, frankly. But the person I have
Juvenile
doing.
court,
Yes, ma'am.
that the one Mr. Darden?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
And then I have some work in Long County being done by contract right now as well, on a temporary basis. I'm not going to keep it that way unless I can get additional funding for it.
Okay.
I have Evans County Superior Court. I think that's everything that's not done by full-time staff right this second.
It's kind of a wake-up call, but I guess it's just, is what it is. Our caseload is based on population, Liberty County. Population is so much.
Yeah, it typically tracks population fairly well. The place, I didn't look at it this year, the place that switches is Tattnall County, I think is our 3rd populous county in the circuit, and it typically has the 2nd highest caseload. But they have 3 prisons there, and approximately half of their caseload is people trying to sneak in drugs to the prison. So they have
Learning some more.
then they do, anytime someone in the prison is charged.
Are you serious?
One day I may ask y'all for money so I can put some billboards up and tell people to turn around and go home. They're almost all from the metro Atlanta area.
Really?
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've worked that caseload myself, but the last time I did it, the vast majority of them had no criminal history. It's like the first thing they've done, somebody convinces them they need to wrap up a bunch of drugs or tobacco and drive down to the prison, try and throw it over the fence, or and they're very adept at catching people. It's been going on a very long time. The government takes that real seriously, as you can imagine. So people are surprised when they don't.
All right, so that accounts for the Tattnall County growth.
Yeah.
Liberty County, what's going on here that you see, trends?
I really don't know. Over the last few years, the caseload had been creeping up even before COVID, but I really don't know. A lot of factors go into that. I don't know if our population increased substantially or.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hesitate to speculate on that,
Yeah.
frankly.
It may be the age group, maybe, the younger population that we have.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a factor too. As well as we're much more transit than some of the other kind.
Correct.
All right, sir. So, Mr. Brown, we need to take action?
We do, sir.
All right. And I'm reminded, he does come early every year because of his budgetary constraints from the state, so, all right. And our 83,000?
I think probably the motion, sir, would just be to approve the public defender budget,
Approved by the- okay,
the Liberty portion, because it's,
all right.
To include that additional attorney? Is
it
that
would
it?
include that additional.
Okay, I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Second to that motion, please, somebody?
Second.
Motion second, we approve the request from Public Defender's Director, Mr. Clark. Good to see you again. You're always very thorough with your presentation. We appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Sometime I wish you could bring us good news.
Start sending some good news.
Yeah?
There's good stories.
Yeah, well,
Try and bring some next year.
that's right. And you're right, there's some good stories in there somewhere.
Yes.
Any further questions for this gentleman? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you again, sir. Yeah, bring some good stories first next time. Enterprise Fleet Program, Mr. Whiteside.
Mr. Whiteside's coming. So about 3 years ago, at that time, Chief Deputy John Long came to us and introduced a proposal or showed us a program that Enterprise Fleet Rental had that related to law enforcement vehicles, with a lot of counties struggling, as we've seen today in budget stuff, to keep vehicles current. Major Bill Kirkendall met with us, I guess it's been probably a month ago now, a month or two ago, and started talking to us about the law enforcement package. We then asked Mr. Whiteside to go ahead and roll the package for the whole county, when he explained to us that really the bigger savings and bigger advantages are to the rest of the fleet of the county. So what you're going to see tonight is a very good proposal that we've looked through, staffed it, and have worked back and forth on vehicles from an Enterprise Fleet Rental program that they have. And I'm not going to take away from your presentation. I was going to tell what I know about it, but go ahead.
No, that's perfect. Well, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to present our program. I'm Kris Whiteside, so I work with Enterprise Fleet Management. We partner with government entities to help with related expenses. So ultimately, the goal is to lower the total cost of ownership. I've got a couple quick slides, about 10 that I'll run through. I promise I'll keep it brief. But a quick overview of y'all's current fleet, a look at the effective vehicle life cycle. We're going to look at a cost comparison and then some additional resources that Enterprise as a fleet management company provides. So quick overview of Enterprise Holdings. So Enterprise Fleet Management is a division of Enterprise Holdings, which includes Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Enterprise Truck Rental, National Alamo, all the different brands you're familiar with. We are the long-term leasing or long-term funding arm that essentially does fleet management for government entities and commercial clients. The main reason I put this up here is Enterprise as a company manages about 2 million vehicles worldwide. So on an annual basis, they purchase, somewhere around 800,000 vehicles. So one of the largest auto buyers out there. When you partner with us on the fleet management side, you're able to take advantage of those economies of scale and the resources that we have to run our fleet. And it can be really beneficial. Enterprise is also a privately held company, and definitely has a presence here in the county and this area. So a few of our local partners. On the left-hand side, the majority of these are Georgia, Bartow County, Camden County, Cherokee County, Effingham County just down the road. We work with Pembroke, St. Mary's, Tybee, Waycross. There's several South Carolina counties listed on there that are pretty similar in size from a fleet standpoint that I've partnered with as well. Just looking at it from a government standpoint, Enterprise partners with about 1,900 government entities across the country and manages or leases about 46,000 vehicles to those entities. So about 1,100 of the government entities we partner with are cities and counties, very similar to Liberty County. This is an overview of Liberty County's fleet. So this is combined. This is going to include the sheriff's vehicles and the county vehicles. So there's about 165 vehicles in fleet. The average age is about 9 years old. Average annual miles is roughly 13,700. On average, if you look at the historical trends, Liberty County buys about 11.4 vehicles per year. So the average model year of the fleet is about a 2012. And then based on purchasing 11.4 vehicles per year, that puts you in an average holding time of about 14.6 years. So if you divide the 165 vehicles in fleet by 11.4 per year, you're going to see your holding vehicles roughly 14 years. Some of the key observations on the bottom right-hand side that really stick out is about 50% of the fleet is over 100,000 miles, or has over 100,000 miles on it. About 25% has over 150,000 miles, and about 38% of the fleet is 10 years or older. Average current maintenance cost is roughly $102 per vehicle. And then there's always an opportunity, when enterprise comes in, we not only look at, when the right time to cycle out of vehicles are and the age of your fleet and things like that. We also look and see if there's underutilized vehicles potentially, or the ability to downsize or reduce some vehicles that maybe we could use a pool vehicle for or something like that. So there are about 10 vehicles that average less than 5,000 annual miles that may make sense to evaluate. This is really the three main buckets that make up fleet management. The depreciation portion, that's really the loss of value. So if you think about what you purchase a vehicle for versus what it sells for, it's really what that cost is in between. Your operating costs are going to be the fuel and maintenance piece. So those are the three largest costs associated with owning a fleet of vehicles. What enterprise does is we really evaluate when the right time to cycle out of vehicles are. So when is the ideal time to sell a vehicle before your maintenance costs start to creep up, your fuel economy starts to go down, and your resale value starts to go down. So we really look at where that optimum point is. That line there shows, roughly 10 years. Right now, county's on roughly a 14.6 year cycle, which would be just to the right of that line. So very common for government entities, but there's a couple different ways to shift from that current structure. So if you look, this is a brief, quick snapshot of a 2021 GMC 1500 4x2 crew cab truck. So your basic 4x2 crew cab truck like the county has. One of the things governments do is they buy vehicles really well. They buy as well as enterprise, maybe even better. So that truck would be, MSRP or sticker price is probably around $36,900. Regular, call it like a construction company or a commercial client that comes in, probably could buy that vehicle for around $30,000 with incentives and things like that. Now, on the government side, you're able to buy that vehicle for about $25,000. So that's what a government price would look like on that vehicle. So you're already buying vehicles below the market value, with huge incentives. But what we find is government entities don't typically get out of vehicles at the right point. They run vehicles for a very long time, and they, a lot of times they don't have a lot of value at the end of life. So what we do is we look for how can we optimize your cycle and find the right time to cycle out of vehicles. So you can see the little chart at the bottom there shows, after 12 months in service with about 12,000 miles, the market value for that truck is about $29,000. So essentially it's worth more than you paid for it after about 12 months. There's a lot of government entities that are turning around and selling vehicles after 1 year and making proceeds off of it. If you could buy them and sell them the first day, we'd tell you to do that, but they do require you hold them for 6 to 12 months. That's what the manufacturers require. But that's the same model that enterprise uses. If you're familiar with going to get a rental vehicle, it's usually 1, maybe 2 years old, 20 to 40,000 miles on it. It's that same philosophy as you buy really low, you sell at the peak of the market, and when you do that, you cut out a lot of your operating expenses. So you're not going to have high maintenance costs and high fuel costs because now you're just doing a couple oil changes, maybe tires, but you're cutting out those large transmission repairs and that non-contract maintenance that can be a concern. So we put together two different financial models. This first model is for just the county vehicles. The most important box on here is over on the kind of far right-hand side in yellow. I know it's hard to see from there, but it's over a 10-year period, we project about a $1.3 million budget savings by shifting to a program with enterprise. So we're going to recommend shortening your life cycle on the county vehicles from just over 17 years down to under 5 years. If you look at it from an average annual cost standpoint, if we factor in the lease cost plus the resale, you're looking at an average annual cost of around $67,000. Today, y'all are spending on average about $134,000. on purchases. So you're going to have a savings there from a purchase standpoint. You're also going to realize savings from the maintenance and the fuel side with newer, more efficient vehicles. So a lot of positives there. As we shift to the sheriff vehicles, so there's roughly 75 vehicles in their fleet. Their cycle point is about 10 years, so it's a little bit better than the county fleet, but definitely, still a concern, especially with emergency response vehicles and the wear and tear and the idle time and other factors that go into their vehicles. Over a 10-year period, we expect a savings of around $548,000 from a budget standpoint, so definitely still some savings there. The average annual lease cost, when we factor in the lease cost and the proceeds from the sale of vehicles, is roughly $307,000. So slightly higher than what y'all are projected to be spending today. On average for the sheriff vehicles, you're buying about 7.8 per year on average and spending around $282,000. So it's slightly higher, but what it does and what this, what that number doesn't account for is obviously your savings from the maintenance and fuel side. We know there's going to be significant savings from shifting from a almost 10-year cycle to a 5-year cycle. Again, the fuel piece. And there's really 4 main factors that kind of, I guess you would say, go against law enforcement vehicles. First of all, they have equipment in them, so they've got aftermarket equipment included in that, so your lights, cameras, things like that. They've got high idle time. They're usually driven in much harsher conditions. And then there's not as strong of a resale market for those. So this is basically replacing vehicle for vehicle, so chargers for chargers, that sort of thing. So your standard law enforcement government vehicles. Again, some of those other additional benefits, reducing the downtime, so more efficient vehicles on a healthy cycle, so you're not going to have vehicles sitting in the shop as much because it's going to be more minor repairs, you're going to have oil changes, different service. Improving the county image and recruiting by reducing the age of the fleet. So we've seen huge increases from a recruiting standpoint with other government entities that we partner with by having newer, more efficient vehicles in fleet. Not just the law enforcement side, but a lot of the other employees of the county spend all day in their vehicles. And if they can have newer, more efficient vehicles, it can increase morale and the recruiting standpoint. The one that's very hard to quantify is the safety and the risk. Newer vehicles are obviously much safer and much more, it's going to reduce your risk drastically. So about 37 vehicles that are in the county predate the anti-lock brake standardization. So about 37 vehicles over 2007 or older. 63 vehicles are 2012 or older. So electronic stability control was standardized in 2012. So some of these vehicles could have it, but the majority of them probably don't. And then over 123 of the vehicles predate the standardization of backup cameras. So, one of the highest volume accidents we see are backing up or rear accidents and things like that. So with backup cameras, we kind of take them for granted nowadays because they're on all newer vehicles, but a lot of the vehicles you have may not have that. They may not have Bluetooth, so some of the different things there. We do offer tracking and telematics on vehicles. If y'all wanted that, it is an additional option that we offer that can track safety. So if we wanted to look at seatbelt usage, speeding, harsh braking, things like that, there are some options for that. And then the other benefit is the open-end equity lease, which is what Enterprise offers. Provides you ownership in the vehicle, so you own the equity and you own the value that's in the vehicle. There's no mileage penalties, no wear and tear. So, you hear a lot of people hear that term lease and they think about a dealership style lease. Like you go to the car dealership, you go over 12,000 miles, they're going to charge you per mile. They're going to charge you if you got a scratch or a dent or anything like that on it. Ours are no mileage penalties, no wear and tear, so you don't have that. That's not a factor. It's really more like a finance. So as if you were going to finance a vehicle, it's really more like that, like a lease purchase is a common term in the government space. And then lastly, any vehicle that's under our program can be tracked through our website. So we provide an account manager, really a client strategy manager is what their title is. They come and meet with the county 3 to 4 times per year to make sure that we're monitoring your cost. We're making sure that vehicles are being tracked and replacing vehicles at the right time. We're always going to make sure we're staying on track from a budget standpoint and a cost standpoint, and here to kind of provide you with those analytics. I'm based out of Columbia, South Carolina, and I cover South Carolina, Eastern Georgia. Our team has about 14 people on it that all would serve as resources for the county, spread across the state. And then we also have, obviously, a huge operation in St. Louis where Enterprise's national headquarters is. It serves as a a support team as well. So from everything you can think of when it comes to delivering a vehicle, from coordinating the delivery, coordinating the tag, title, upfit, anything like that is all handled through Enterprise. So I know that's a lot of information to throw at you. But ultimately the goal is to provide a safer, more efficient fleet for the county, while creating some savings. A lot of the different counties have partnered with us and found it to be a really beneficial program. So I definitely welcome any questions or feedback or any additional concerns.
Chairman, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Two questions was let's just say, for instance, like we're in budget right now, and some departments may come up and want a truck, but then the next one will say Escape, and the next one may say a Fusion.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you determine what you would recommend for that department to have, or
Yes.
do y'all kind of get involved with that a little bit? Because obviously the Fusion is probably the more or lesser one if it's just to run around the county with.
So it is. One of the things Enterprise does is we obviously watch the market very well. So the sedans are kind of being phased out, which they do not make a Fusion anymore. So the most comparable vehicle would be like a Malibu or something like that. But that standard sedan, a lot of times what we would recommend from a total cost of ownership standpoint would be to look at potentially a small SUV that's going to be similar in cost, or if a pickup truck is an option, while I know that seems like a bigger vehicle from a resale standpoint, being in Georgia, you can imagine pickup trucks sell really well.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the South, pickup trucks sell really well. So and the government buy is phenomenal on them. So
Right, okay.
we always look at what do you need. We're going to give recommendations of the lowest total cost. We're going to factor in maintenance, fuel, all those different factors, and say, hey, here's the information. What makes the most sense.
Okay. The other question I had maybe for Mr. Brown is, if we go this route, would we see the contract with First Service going down?
Yes, so can you go back to one of those example slides for a second? So we would, a couple of things we've looked at as staff and also looked at some other counties was they do offer an outsourced maintenance program, basically, but to answer your question, our proposal from staff would be leave it in-house and yes, so the stuff that's out of contract that we're paying for now would go away, basically. There wouldn't be any out of contract items. Additionally, I think that because those vehicles are in better shape, you're going to reduce downtime on any vehicles, so your fleet's going to be out there working for you versus constantly in and out of the shop,
Right.
walking down the shop. This lease will only cover road-type vehicles. So your emergency response vehicles, be it ambulances, be it heavy trucks, won't be in there. We'll free up the time. They're diesel, they're more complicated, what time it takes to work on those vehicles. So, I think the efficiency in the shop will be better too.
Yeah.
I do want to tell you something else we looked at as staff, and it was really 3 columns. So we look at obviously what the rate is we've been buying, but we also look at, and this is what he was talking about, the equity of the owned and the resale. So we'd come in, this would be our lease amount for a 12-month period, and I'm careful not to say from July 1st to June 30th, because as these things cycle in and come in and out, they may come in as they're available during the year. So a 12-month period cost selling some of the vehicles that have been identified in the first year, in this example, whichever one it is, and we're getting equity leased, then buy-in. So at the end of a 12-month cycle, our actual cash out will be this amount, less this amount, less this amount for the total vehicle achievement. So as he talks about it, we've been through all the vehicles in both divisions or countywide, and we basically said, look, coming in, what makes the most sense in the market value right now? And so every time before we roll into that 12-month cycle, we're going to relook at what's proposed to be bought during that year, what the value is on those vehicles, and what makes the most sense, so that when we go back in, the equity leased, then basically we've got a better value in those leased vehicles because they're going to turn around and sell them at a higher market rate. And the other thing that's important to say in the lease too is this, is that as we look at what the value of those vehicles are going to be when they're sold on the market, they're listed in these examples at a fair to poor condition. They're assuming a road hardened, put up wet, if you will, like the old horse term, that they are gonna be in public service use. And so, you know, looking for a scratch on them, looking for whatever, when they go out there to book value these equity lease at the end and put them on the market, they're looking at the ADA book, of poor to fair condition. They may be better than that. They may bring more. So the other thing I think is important is the models that you're seeing, especially on the law enforcement side, of the cost that's projected in these years, do count for a fully equipped vehicle. Okay, so it's not just the cost of the car, and oh, by the way, then we got to have a budget over here to equip that car with the equipment it needs. That price includes that. So looking at a model there. This is the county, actually, if we flip to the law enforcement side, and the difference, you know, is this: the county counts on budgeting its equipment in-house, which is what you've been going through. The law enforcement vehicle, as you know, we've been buying through Splash. And so what you're seeing that we've been purchasing primarily is what Splash has bought. There's been some infusion of general fund money in there over time. But so the thought process here, you continue with your Splash funding to get these numbers that you need. And if you look, your heavy hit, look at these categories, your heavy hit starts in 26, and that's when you have not as much equity owned in here. So your difference is gonna be this number less this number over a 12-month cycle. That gives us time to go ahead as we grow into the next Splash cycle and increase the dollar value that we need to get in here. But oh, by the way, even if we were buying these vehicles, and we said that the other day, the cost of those vehicles we're buying in Splash are increasing at, I don't know, let's call it 5% at a modest, maybe 5 to 8%. And so that number now, when it's down here, would need to be close to what that number is anyway, if we're trying to factor in an inflation rate coming into the next Splash cycle, what we need to buy the same number of vehicles. So those are just some of the things we analyzed as staff, and we beat Kris up pretty good. Asked the same question 4 times to make sure he was consistent with his answer. Insurance would be handled the same way. We would insure the vehicles. That same capacity. I've talked to our current insurance carrier, and in fact, Seville works with several of those cities and counties, carrying the insurance for them in this fleet program. So, but just wanted to make it.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Joey, let's say, you know, like a fleet, you know, cars or SUVs, and I've heard, I don't know how true it is, I don't follow cars and, you know, that much, but I heard that Ford doesn't make, the only car they make these days is the Mustang, and everything else is the SUV. So let's say if we were to go with this, and we wanted a car, you know, say you or Mr. Mosley wanted a sedan, but the only car that Ford has is the Mustang. I don't know if Mosley want to be riding around town. He probably will, but I don't know if we would want him to do that. So we wouldn't say, well, you know, let's get some Fords, let's get some GMs. We would go with one. Now GM still makes the car, I guess.
Well, no, we would. I think that's
we
what,
would?
interrupt, but I think that's what perfect example he was given. And using that same example, if it came up in any one of these years in 22 that administration was due a vehicle, he's going to reach out before we do the purchase of that year and say, all right, here are the ones that are coming up this year. What is it you have the need for? What's the functionality in the department? Let me see what the market value on that type of vehicle is, and it may be a GMC, because that's bringing the higher rate at the end of that 12-month period or 24-month period in a book value. So I want to be able to get whatever vehicle it is that's going to bring back the most money to me.
So we could have
You could have
A mixed fleet.
a mix.
It'll probably be much more mixed than it is today, because if you look back at one of those slides, I think it was almost probably 90% Ford,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
pretty much dominated.
Well, and I was thinking for the mechanics, you know, stocking the parts, but you know, I mean, you got a air filter for a Ford and one for a Chevrolet, one for a Dodge Ram or whatever. I guess you just have to do it.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Something you got to cover with the shop is the standardization does
Yeah.
help with some of that, but I wish we were more standard than we were even in the Ford mix. And really in the patrol cars, or whatever it is, most of them aren't Fords, they're Chargers. But one year to the next, they change stuff on them.
Yeah.
You basically, the same filter's not gonna work from year to year anyway.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's, they don't carry a large stock in the shop.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question.
Sure.
Do you like negotiate locally with our dealers to purchase those to lease those vehicles, or is that something, where do those vehicles come from?
Yeah, so we reach out directly to the so each year before we come back to you, or whenever there's a request for a vehicle, we reach out to the manufacturer. So we'll reach out to Chrysler, Ford, Chevy, GM, even Nissan, Hyundai, Toyota, all the different manufacturers, and we get government incentives, so government pricing, and we're going to put that together in a model and show you, hey, here's all the different Ford options, here's all the different Chevy options, here's what they cost on a cents per mile basis to help y'all make the best decision. And then we would typically order direct from the manufacturer and have them shipped through a local dealer. If there's a local dealer in the county that is a ship-through dealer, we would, for example, if it's a Ford, we may have it shipped through a local dealer or a Chrysler or Chevy.
Okay.
Once it arrives at the dealership, they do the pre-delivery inspection. If it needed to be upfit or anything like that, we would take it and get that process done. If it was ready to go, we would just bring it over to the county. But yeah, we work directly with the manufacturers. We're going to give you the options. The decisions are ultimately the county's. That's really the beauty of it is we're going to say, hey, here's the different truck options, here's the different sedan options, here's what we recommend, but it's ultimately your decision, obviously.
Okay.
And what's our out in case we run into a lemon?
So, very similar to your process today. Unfortunately, that does happen from time to time. But Enterprise, being one of the largest or the largest auto buyer in the country, we do have we have a national service department that is a team that works with our customers to help navigate those types of things. And hopefully, that's few and far between, but when it does happen, the good thing is the majority of these vehicles will remain under warranty. You'll be cycling out of them while they're still under warranty. So hopefully we can eliminate those issues from happening, but we do work with you, and they're graded off of, our national service team is graded off of how they can generate savings, any goodwill assistance from the manufacturer, which would be, if a vehicle's slightly over warranty and we're able to capture, monies from the manufacturer, so different things like that.
Information for you tonight, just as we look in the budget process and see what options are, and this, basically from our standpoint, looks like an option.
Okay.
Based on the cost, and based on, we've been trying to climb out of the hole with, you heard it today.
Oh, yeah.
Everything that was going on.
Yeah.
As you know.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of.
and Trying to directly fund that way out straight is probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
It would take something, like this to get your fleet more standardized and bring down your cost overall.
Okay. All right.
I just
Thank
got
you.
one question. Go back to the, no, you don't really have to go back. You probably can answer it straight off on your sheriff cars.
Yes, sir.
They have to have a cage put in it, right? What about the process of putting that cage in, and when they get ready to turn it back in, what happens to the value of that particular car?
So, so the way it works is we would work with the county and the sheriff's office, sheriff's team to equip the vehicles the way they would like. So this includes estimates for their upfit, so about the average cost of upfitting one of their vehicles. So those costs are factored into the lease cost. At the end of the lease term, there is the option if they're able to transfer any equipment over, or if they're able to, and that's one of the benefits to shortening the life cycle of these vehicles. If they're cycling out of a patrol vehicle in 4 to 5 years, there may be an opportunity to move some of that equipment over because maybe models haven't changed, or the body styles haven't changed. So that's something that they probably haven't been able to do in the past that they may be able to do. But the vehicle we assign no value to that equipment. on the resale or secondary market, it doesn't really bring any value. Usually it's stripped out of it before it's sold anyway, so.
But I think my point is, do you have to do any drilling to put the cage in?
Typically, yes, sir.
And that's what I'm talking about, the value of
It
it.
accounts for that,
Right,
absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
Now, go back to your screen one, back up. I want to make sure what I saw. Okay, right there.
Yes,
Mr. Brown, what is that right there?
That's probably a truck that needs help.
That's a General Motors truck. Thank you, sir.
It's new, as long as you get rid of them in about,
Right.
24 months.
I'll say the numbers play true with Ford as well, so
Okay.
we see a lot of, there's a lot of Fords, we know, we understand.
All right.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Just had to get something on you
I
today.
expect that from Commissioner Walden, but
I was gonna say, that's Walden's truck.
Okay.
Mid-coast hangar proposals.
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you might remember, in fact, we talked about this the last meeting, this will be coming back to you, but we took proposals on hangars, actually the end of last year, and ran into some problems getting the contract executed on the state side. So we ended up having to go back out again. We entertained proposals. We received proposals from 2 firms. I put a little memo in there. Same one that I sent to the City Council and Development Authority that are partners at the airport. Unfortunately, one of the submitters did not meet MWBE requirements, and so had to be discounted. Could not even be considered. That left us with Johnson Locks, who is a very qualified firm. They were one of the submitters in the last proposal round we did. Their total cost of the project, $1.2 million, 1,227 to be exact. What Carmen did for the partners on that second page is run a debt analysis. This assumes being able, as you can see, taking the revenues from the new T hangars that'll be built, under a 5-year, which is what we're going to recommend, under a 5-year recommendation, those hangars would bring in about $43,000 a year when they're constructed. And by the way, they are pre-leased. We already have the folks signed up for them. So you see the annual debt that we've gotten a quote on from Ameris Bank at 2.65%, 87,408, less the 43.2 from the revenue, leaves a deficit there of about 44,208. The annual partner share then annually would be $14,736 to be assumed on those. And so it's our recommendation that we basically go ahead and award the contract on the hangars to Johnson Locks. GDOT will come back in. You see the GDOT broken out up top. Local share of the total project will end up being $708,904. There is a splosh that's eligible for use at the airport for $150, so the initial loan will only be for $558,904. We will add in some GDOT additional revenue that'll come in November of 2021, actually during the construction project. So we might not end up really having to draw down that total loan. So that's how you get to the permanent loan amount of $408,904, which would be the amount to be borrowed by the partners for the project. So recommendation from the scoring team, and actually the Development Authority approved this at their meeting last week, is to go ahead and engage for the contract and draw down those GDOT resources. So all total, with the GDOT, and she didn't add this in there, but the difference, about $500,000 coming from GDOT right now and another $150 coming towards the project. So substantial amount being funded through GDOT. And we are trying to get it crunched in before the end of their fiscal year because it includes some GDOT leftover aviation monies that we want to take advantage of before the fiscal year expires. This is about the same partner share that you had last time that you approved in the last round.
So you're recommending the 5-year amortization
We
schedule?
are recommending a 5-year, at least a 5-year initial loan. Now, the other thing that comes into play here too, and we keep referring to Splosh, and it can't do everything, but since we've been able to drive the partner share down so low, that you may get in if you decide to put any remaining balance into the next splosh for the airport, which you've done in the past. You can go ahead and retire this debt. If not, you simply let our contribution continue to pick it up at $14,000 a year, which isn't bad at all. I will note that as we ran this, and I think it's important, probably it's important we come and give you a annual review of the budget for the airport. You see those, I know, on the Joint Management Board team. The revenue out there has been up. So the partner shares have been declining anyway. And I really think I'm in hopes, and talking to Carmen, that this won't be an additional $14,000 per year that we'll have to pay. I think we may have some savings already in that budget, so that, you know, if we see any increase, it'll be nominal in that budget cycle, because it's doing real well. So it's good news. It's really good news.
Good news. All right, you heard the recommendation from staff that we approve the 5-year amortization offer here for the hangars at the airport.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
more of a statement than a question, but know we hang our hat a lot on local option sale taxes, spillage, and the money that we get from the revenues we get from spillage. And my understanding that it funds a lot of our projects. And what disturbs me so much is when we got this spillage and the times that we've done them over and over and over, we still borrowing money to complete projects. And I guess my lack of understanding of how the total budget process works, but I just don't understand we having to borrow money when we depending so much on the revenue that we bringing in from the sales taxes. Something just,
I might have gone the wrong direction there. So this was not a project that was forecast in the splosh. This is a brand-new hangar project at the airport, because we're out of hangar space. And so we reached out to GDOT and said, do you have any money you can help us with on a grant for these hangars? Because we're out of space, we got people that want to lease them. And GDOT said yes. And so this is not an envisioned splosh project at all. It was not programmed in the splosh. And you don't have to even worry about splosh with this if you don't want to going forward. This is not a project that was not completed with the splosh. This is a brand new, that just came up last year, as a matter of fact, because of the need at the airport.
yeah, I was in on the initial meeting we had at the airport, but it's just my mind, I guess I still got a lot to learn, but it's sales taxes and still borrowing money just don't add up to me. Like I said, I got a lot to understand. I'm still learning, but that's just a comment I wanted to make.
Well, so, yeah, and I'll try to, and we can talk some more about it later, but I might have misled you in saying, again, this was not a project that was ever envisioned to be paid by Splosh. The Splosh that's being used right here is an old Splosh that there was money left over in that was designated for the airport. And so it was actually Splosh money designated for airport that we can use here. And so we're simply saying, in order to reduce the debt that you're gonna borrow for building these hangars, to bring some of that money in, okay, this is an old Splosh, and then you'll borrow the rest, but other than that, it doesn't have anything to do with Splosh. Unless you go to the next Splosh tax and you say, you know what, so that I don't pay this debt with property tax money, I want to put the balance on the splosh and take the relief off my taxpayers, then you could put that on the next splosh, but you don't have to. If you don't, then the general fund, i.e. tax dollars, are gonna pay the debt. And again, I was trying to do the number here, the 1,227,000 of the project, if GDOT, let's see. GDOT, the end amount that GDOT's gonna end up kicking in is about $668,000. they're going to kick in about half of that project cost is what they'll do over the end.
How many hangars would this be?
It'll be 12 additional.
12 additional hangars?
Yes, sir. The other thing I think is going to happen here too is that once these hangars get in, we're probably going to adjust the rental rate of the hangars out there because that hasn't been adjusted. That's something the local management board's talking about. That's going to bring more money back into the airport budget. And so again, would reduce the overall partner share to anything that goes in. So
So what was the county's portion, the 408?
no, ma'am, actually what'll happen in this is that, number one, you would award the bids. Number two, you'd sign a resolution that says we want the state money. State then will send about $600,000 to the project. We'll kick in a little bit of old splash money that was designated for airport. So at the end, the partners are going, the industrial authority is gonna go borrow 408,904 because they run the budget for the airport.
Okay.
And so then the partners will pay them back, is what'll happen. Each partner will kick in $14,000 a year towards the remaining debt, is what'll happen. Which again, is about the same amount, almost exactly, that you approved last time when we tried to put these out and we couldn't contract it because of the state stuff. So you have an increase, you've already approved it once, so to speak. We just had to go back out. What did happen is GDOT put some more money in the pot. That's what kept your cost the same as last time because the actual construction cost went up because of the materials and goods cost.
And that's for 5 years.
This would be for 5 years.
For 12
Which is,
new
yes,
hangars.
ma'am, which is the
Okay.
same thing you looked at last time.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the Mid-Coast hangar proposal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, we approve the Mid-Coast hangar proposal presented. Any further discussion? I think Commissioner Jones, your point's well taken, but I do, as Mr. Brown suggested, we have a little offline conversation to further discuss your points. Certainly, your point's well taken and noted for our record. All right. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Those opposed? One, all right.
Chairman, the next thing on there related to this also is to be able to do a resolution authorizing a grant with the Department of Transportation to be able to draw down that money for this project.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
Is there a
Approve the
second?
resolution.
Second.
Motion second, we approve the resolution that goes along with the hangar proposal. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, thank you. Lot 6 Recreation Funding, District 2.
Yes, sir. I know Commissioner Frazier isn't able to be with us tonight, but he had indicated to Mr. Martin that he wanted to try to enhance the basketball court improvement project down at Stafford Park. And he met with Mr. Martin. They looked over some improvements. I can't tell you exactly what they were because they discussed those internal. I think it was some painting on the courts to make them look better and maybe even some bleachers to be there on the court. There has been somebody that's come forward and said basically they also wanted to make some private contribution to that. So I asked Mr. Martin, I said, what is it that needs to be moved from Commissioner Frazier's district into that to complete that project? And that estimate is $30,000. I discussed it with Commissioner Frazier and he said, that's fine. Wants to kind of do the same thing that some of y'all have been able to do to move money over to the recreation fund. And so he wants to be able to take some of his allocated District 2 money and move it over there.
In the amount of 30,000?
Yes, sir, not to exceed 30.
All right, Chair, entertain a motion.
He's not here, but if that's what he wants to do, then I'll make the motion that we move the funds from Commissioner Frazier's splosh for District 2 over to the Recreation Fund.
I'll second it.
Motion second, we allow the transfer as has been discussed.
Do I need to make the motion for the amount, Mr. Chairman?
Well, he said 30,000.
30,000, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 30,000.
Okay, all right. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Okay, all right.
And I do have a question. I mean, we've just approved it. But this is the same court that we would that we voted a while back to, in memory of the young man that,
Spud.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, and, well, you wouldn't know, I guess, Joey, unless Jimmy told you or Justin told you, and I could check with him, but, I wonder, is it, is it gonna make, a sign is gonna be part of
They
that?
are. It's part of a sign or a monument type thing, not monument, but a sign to be able to
Okay.
hold that plaque and do all that. And I think they do want to put Spud Webb Courts in the, in there, in the spray designation. So,
Okay.
I haven't seen a model
nice.
on what they want to
Okay.
do yet, but I want to go ahead and make sure that if it was okay, we'd go ahead and let them start work on what they want.
Okay.
Commission meeting schedule change.
This is what was brought back from your last meeting that you
Yeah.
talked about, standardization of some meetings and
Yes, sir.
possibly going to first and third Tuesdays at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
I think is what you discussed
I
last.
think your recommendation, we start that in July, don't I remember that correctly?
It is a recommendation, we start that in July, please, because we've already got the budget calendar set up and the advertisements and stuff that have to run there, so if we can make it effective in the month of July, that would be great.
Okay.
If it's the board's will.
All right.
It's totally up to y'all.
Board, ready to make that move?
What was the
First and third Tuesday, 6 o'clock.
first and third Tuesday? We're gonna keep the time the same, the 6, and then
Just rather than Thursday, it's a Tuesday. Rather than the third Thursday, now it's the third Tuesday.
Whether,
we start in July.
whether than third Tuesday at 5, it'll be,
Six.
third Thursday at 5, it'll be
Third Tuesday at
second
6.
Tuesday at 6.
I'm sorry.
Third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday at 6, yes.
You moving everything to 6?
That's what y'all talked about
Yes,
last
sir.
time. It's totally up to whatever y'all
Yes,
want to
sir.
do.
And, Mr. Chairman, and we were doing that, you said, to standardize with some meetings for some of that the other governments may be having, so it won't interfere with them, or,
Well, it's
I
just
mean, when
something
you
that
said stand, I know it was talked about, but, and I'll say this, I'll do do my level best to make every meeting, regardless of when it's scheduled. I mean, I have a few other things going on, but since I've been here, I just wrote this down for this conversation, and it really doesn't matter one way or another. But there are some times when the first of the month comes in on a Thursday, which would be the first Thursday, but that following Tuesday, for example, would be the 6th. And the next week, 9 days later, we meet on the 15th. And if the first Thursday in the month is a 2nd, that following Tuesday is the 7th, and we meet 9 days later on the 16th. And if the first Thursday on the month is the 3rd, the following Tuesday is the 8th, and we meet on the 17th. And I'm saying that to say this, there are several times throughout the year where we meet 9 days apart. But if week after week, 9 days, but this week and next week. And doing this, that would be every 14 days. We won't have the luxury, if you would call it, of the 9. And I like the 9, because it does come up 2 or 3 times a year. And I mean, maybe that's no reason to keep it that way, but doggone it, that's what I like.
And I think, Commissioner Gill, we'll work with whatever y'all decide.
No,
to do.
I
So
mean,
it just came up at your
again,
planning
I'm
session.
going to Cobbtown in the morning, and if there was a meeting in the morning, I wouldn't be here because I'd be in Cobbtown. So it's going to be some times that,
can't come in.
that regardless of
When it is,
how you do it.
yeah.
But I mean, I had to put that out, but in the 12, 13 years that I've been here, when we hit the 9, I said, man, that's 2 full weeks that not that I don't like coming up here. I mean, I love it, but when we hit the 9, it's a good feeling for me.
There will be some months too, Ms. McLaughlin, I talked about, she's already gone, where, they struggle to get the information they need from other entities to close the books on time to get you your third Thursday report. So there could be some times when that report is really 2 months later.
That's what was concerning me.
So there will, that will, yeah.
And another thing that was, if, the employees or department heads that have to come before us at mid-month, they can come right when they get off, rather than have to hang around for an hour to come back at 6. So, I know it was discussed, but the more I think about it, I think that may be why we went to a 5 o'clock. and the Thursday. So I don't know, I think
I thought we had vetted it.
well, the chair's empty.
There are pros and cons both ways.
It's
tonight.
true. But, but I think, that the employees, I'm looking out to those department heads that have an hour.
Yeah,
They got
we
an
should
hour to
leave it
sit
at
around and do
5.
nothing.
yeah.
I think we should leave it the way it is.
Well, if you make that motion, you got my second, or I'll make the motion and you can get the second.
Go ahead.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Further discussion, please. Mr. Chairman, I think that one of the reasons the commissioner from the second district brought the issue up was he and I both work shift work. And on any given day, week, the first Tuesday or the Thursday, our shifts, we may be off, we may be on graveyard shift. And so really, to me personally, it doesn't matter because I'm going to be working one way or the other. And if I have to attend the meeting, my employer at the present is being very lenient with me. They work with me, and if I have to be late or get off early, they accommodate me so far. So it really doesn't matter with me one way or the other.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you.
Y'all say the chair is empty?
The chair.
Chair's empty?
All right, so,
Neat chair.
so listen, we don't have to make any change, or we can make a change,
I mean, that's true. I mean,
I'll make a motion that we leave it the same.
Second.
cleared up.
Motion is second that we leave the meeting schedule as is. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? All right, nothing changes then. We'll work around it the best we can, as we have been doing.
I did it for 19 years.
Insurance renewal, property and
Yes,
casualty.
sir. I gave you a very complicated but analytical sheet that our insurance provider puts together. This is for property and casualty insurance. We can kind of cut to the chase. We had to go ahead and bind it. That insurance renewal came in, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. It renews like 2 weeks later. I mean, it just takes that much time. You see the different carriers in there that handle our lines of coverage. The types of coverage are obviously shown on the left. And so Seville Partner Group out of Atlanta, which is where Ms. Sykes works, they only bind public entity insurance. They specialize in that, and they shop those carriers for us to get us the best price. They took the bids, and this is what came back. The good news is, the bad news is it did increase some, not unexpected. Given the COVID, given some of the changes that the insurance companies have made concerning special coastal clients on the coast. The good news is, though, that overall it was only like a 2.8% increase, which I think I would have expected something in the 5 or 6% range. So you see the totals that we pay out in the premiums there, and they're very expensive. But again, that is all of our public. The only thing that's not on here is the employee health insurance, obviously, because it's binded through Blue Cross Blue Shield. So our largest cost, obviously, general liability, automobile liability, all of our property liabilities based on replacement values. Something that did go up this year, cyber liability. And if you remember, we had to use that a few years ago. So very good to have it. But I bring that to you for information. Basically, this is a budgeted item. This is something actually that will roll into next year's budget. We did change the cycle so that we could have this in effect before the budget year came in. It was previously on a October or September renewal rate. So we will have now the accurate number that will go into our budget. The only thing that would change this during the year is if you add buildings or add a substantial number of vehicles to the fleet other than what we've got, then the line of coverage should be affected.
Okay. So you said information?
It is. We had to go ahead and bind that, so. And this is a great takeaway. It shows all of our deductibles and all of our areas of liability. County attorney reviews it to ensure that we've got the liability coverage we need. Others are specified by law, and so that's how those limits are set.
All right. Once again, we don't need to take action.
You do not.
All right, make sure, all right. Put that in the pending column. All right, alcohol beverage license, hook and reel.
Yes, sir. So the Half Moon Marina down at Colonel's Island sold
Oh, really?
to Mr. Kevin Hofkin. And Mr. Hofkin is just a change in ownership for the alcohol license down there. And it's already gone through the sheriff, approved, and LCPC approved, obviously. So just need a motion and a second to approve it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
They have always had alcohol license previously, the other owners.
Yes, sir, they did. It's really just a property owner name change. Yes.
Thank you.
Good question.
It's a little shop down by Half Moon. Yeah. All right, Chair, entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Approve the alcohol license request. Simply because of change of ownership. Any announcements?
Just a few, if you don't mind, I'll be real quickly. And I'll let Mr. Mosley actually talk about this one, because it was a question that came up this week, and that's
I saw
youth employment. So that's moving along. If
I
you
thought
want
we had
just a
discussed
quick
that.
update on what's going on there.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we are currently taking applications for the program, which will end on this coming Friday. And we're going to do the interview process. We'll do the orientation for students on June the 8th. And on the following day, we'll meet with department heads. And we'll start the life skills sessions at Monday and Tuesday, and then every Monday afterwards. And we'll have a graduation ceremony on the 16th. And supposed to be 2021, I don't know why.
2 years. You're, what was the age on this? Just being school? Was there an age?
Yes, ma'am, it was
14, 18?
14?
14, 18. And we're gonna talk to department heads and ask them to participate this coming Friday, department head meeting.
All right.
Listen to their participation.
Did want to get Clint to bring up one thing, if you don't mind, too. Oh, that beautiful bean footage. We looked at, the chairman brought this up, and we've been looking at some things. Actually, Mr. Mosley and I met with Whitfield Science to look at some options. Can you dim those lights for me, to put behind Commissioner Gilliard up there. So Whitfield Science came, did some measurement on there. If you go ahead and flip it. There's the first one. Kind of a brushed stainless in the back that looks pretty good. When we do a new logo, then what Mr. Mosley knows will work is room to put the new logo up there also. The one I think that we recommend to you is the next one, which is a script on top and a block on bottom, which looks pretty interesting. And again, room for the logo that would still go up there. But the brushed, when we looked at the brush actually on the paint color and the wood and everything, it really just kind of stood out.
What, if it say to go right here? Okay.
Go back to the other one.
Roll back to the block.
I gotta find it, huh?
There it is.
I don't know, y'all.
They both look good. They both will be a great enhancement to the boardroom, I tell you. Either way you look at it.
That one looks more.
We were trying to, I think the thing we were trying to do, and why we suggested the script a little bit, was to get away from just the governmental block,
Yeah.
everything.
Okay.
But they both will look good on that wall.
Do the other one again, Clint?
They both will look good on that wall.
I think I like that one.
Well,
I think
that one is-
I mean, we know it's liberty now. You can look at it from here that, and there's no such word as that's purity, but that kind of looks like a P in the front. From here, now, I ain't got my glasses on, but But,
talking with
I
an
mean,
L right there?
and the C looks like a G.
Yeah, well,
But, yeah, I mean, you know, I know it's Liberty County, and I know it from anywhere, but that.
Well, it may be better to go with the block.
Well, that cursive writing, yeah, you know, is a little fancy, but, I mean, that's,
simple.
that's plain and simple. But, I mean, I wouldn't know what the other one was, either way, but.
Can you flip back to the other one just a second? Maybe something that helps. Okay, I think, so now go back to the block one, and we won't tie you up much longer. Maybe what throws us off a little bit is if the Liberty County stood out better on the other one. If this was downsized a little bit, then you know, you got Liberty County and then Board of Commissioners at the bottom. It's not as big of a block. Then I think the Liberty pops on this one too.
But and then maybe they did that, Joey, because they wanted to be the same length.
Am I happier? That's true.
I mean, you know, because if you use a smaller font, it won't be quite as long.
If you favor the simplicity of the block, then let us go back to Whitfield and work with them on the block and see what those options are.
Let's see what they are.
Okay, that sounds good. And then whatever we do on the logo, we could, I mean, that'll help
Then
bring that out some too. Very good.
And as long as you keep the 9 days, 2 or 3 times a year between the meetings, go ahead, Joey, and I
So a couple of quick other things there, is the Sunbury Sailing Improvement Grant that was submitted was not approved. So I'll just let you know that. We're trying to get a read on the scoring and some of those type things that were there. It looked like that most of the awards went to state-sponsored projects that occurred on historic sites, which is pretty interesting. I did want to mention, did you give those COVID rate things back? I looked at the COVID rate schedule. I know before I came in, I can about remember what they were. According to the Board of Health, as of today, we still, we're almost in the lead in one category, but that's not one we want to be in, and that's the transmission rate. The transmission rate is still almost twice what it would need to be. So it's around 161. So that's the bad news. The other bad news is that we are losing. We are number 7th out of 8th in the percentage of vaccination.
I saw that in the news.
Long County is the only one in the 8-county region that's worse than our rate. So I think we still got a ways to go. I think the transmission rate has been the gauge for us as far as whether we reopen indoor facilities and do a lot of stuff. So unfortunately, the two combined aren't real good right now. I just wanted to share that. I did take a look at that today. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, you're aware of that is that, just to let the board know, we did execute on the board the film agreement that was actually transmitted Sunday night for the filming that's occurring. That's a last-minute thing out of California that comes, but they will start doing some filming down there behind our fire station tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
Yes,
Which
sir. We'll
station,
run
Joey?
through a week.
Which station?
Islands.
At the Island Station.
Okay.
Yes, sir. They filmed at the Bacon Fraser House today, and in fact, they're filming tonight.
What's behind the station that they want to film back there?
Big oak trees.
They built a set too.
Okay.
Big oak trees. They're building an encampment, doing some things.
They built a nice set, like from that time period,
That's actually where the plane crashed.
period?
40s.
40.
Well, it goes from, but that period is in 40s.
Yes.
So this was pretty interesting. But they'll actually, under the agreement, we're gonna give them a little bit of water out of the well. They're gonna make it rain, and they'll compensate us about $2,500 for the water, which is a pretty good deal. So we'll be all right. So I just want to make you aware of that. And just the calendars, I know you got those. We got budget work session Thursday in the have lunch, and then work in the afternoons. And so I think all those are on your calendar. And
What time does it start Thursday? I got.
Starts at 12 for lunch, and then 1 actually on the work.
Yeah.
We'll send out a reminder.
Yeah. And the pictures, that.
They are.
12 to 5.
That's gonna be at the meeting, right? The next meeting?
That'll be before the next meeting. Maria has sent y'all up, that's right. Y'all can please dress in your church attire and come for the picture there.
Okay.
Then we'll have those made.
Mr. Chair, I don't know, did everyone receive a copy of this today?
Yeah.
Did.
I guess this is a drawing of that Islands Highway. Where it's showing trees at now, there's a pond, there's a detention pond already there, which would be right here. There's a detention pond about right here, and there's a box covered. And also, I asked the question the last time, who is gonna be responsible for, I guess they're trying to widen the road? That's what this is showing?
I'm not sure what you're looking at. Is that the, related to the industrial
Yeah,
authority work?
uh-huh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
It was in the mailbox when I got
it's in our mailbox.
the mailbox?
Mm-hmm.
So,
But the development authority is paying for the road improvements, yeah.
so the one that captures it the best is that slide.
Okay, so that slide right there, you're showing when they build the next building, they're gonna put 2 more entryway coming out to Olive Highway? Right there?
Well, so I can't answer that because that's some kind of future building if it was to happen. So this building, from what I understand, but right now, those entrances are, first one here where the flare out is, where there will be a, turn lane that starts actually back up here. So the turn lane will start back up here, turn left in here, and then there's also a flare out for the acceleration on that side. And I'll just tell you what I understand. So in the same thing down here. So there's the turn lane will actually start down here and run, of course, beyond there when it goes back in. But yes, sir, from what I understand, and what I think the chairman talked about last time, the development authority, either development authority or the client, is furnishing all of that.
All the road improvements.
So my next question is, will this be prepared by the time the building is open? It needs to be.
So I think we have to be prepared before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just looking out for the safety of the people.
Oh, no, I agree, Commissioner Davis. I think probably, I haven't asked the specific question, if I'm building that building though,
It'll be
got
there.
asphalt in here, so any asphalt work out here is gonna be done in conjunction with the asphalt work up here, so they don't mobilize the work out.
Is there any way that you can get
Absolutely.
a little confirmation on that? To find out, to make sure that the building doesn't open up
That's a
before.
conversation with Trent.
Well, yeah, or basically with the development authority and their contracting schedule, but I'll be glad to.
Trent's doing the delivery counting part, making sure that everything's up to par. He's our gatekeeper. He must have put it in our box, I guess.
He might have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, before we go, Joey, when you see your contemporary across the street, Mr. Howard, and Mr. Chairman, when you see Mayor Brown, tell them that the Great American Cleanup, which was, I think, the 20th, that for the 20th year in a row that the county beat the city. Now, I told Kenny that this morning on the, and I know he's listening. I told him that this morning at the department head meeting, the Zoom call. And I told him that, my guys from ESG, we had 20 people, and we did everything we could to keep the city in second place for the 20th year in a row. And second place doesn't sound bad, because if it was an Olympics, it'd be a silver medal. But you could say second place, and on the downside, you could say last again.
I might just congratulate him on being in
When you
second
see him, just remind him.
We'll see him tomorrow.
I don't want to get mad at me.
Yeah. But it's out there now for the whole wide world.
All right, so all for the good order, sir?
Yes, sir, thank you, sir.
All right, Chair, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. All in favor?